My calendar 54 years. Two super geniuses have appeared in the dark side of Kiba. One is Yuzhibo Weasel, the other is Qiuyuan Shenle. One is a tool in the village, willing to do anything for the sake of Mai, except for his brother Uchiha Sasuke, a self-proclaimed tool in the village, willing to do anything for the sake of Mai, including Uchiha Sasuke, the younger brother of Uchiha Itachi. Keywords of the novel. Starting from Huoying as a working person without a pop-up window, starting from Huoying as a working person. Download the complete set of TXT, starting from Huoying as a working person. Latest chapters for reading. Chapter 1. The most perfect experimental item. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Chapter 1. The most perfect experimental item. Grassland. The moonlight in the dark night is bright. Moonlight fell and reflected on the ground, revealing a pitch-black hole, and muffled explosions came from the cave. Click. The mountain wall suddenly cracked open. Countless broken stones are flying and shooting, and the entire mountain is on the verge of collapse. A man with long hair flew out of the rubble, his gaze fixed on the crumbling mountain wall, his hands quickly entwined with ninjutsu fingerprints. The art of spiritual communication. The smoke of the psychic technique permeates. A brown python was summoned by teleportation. Before the python could react, an agile young figure suddenly jumped out of the mountain wall and punched the python's head. This punch is powerful and powerful. This python had just been summoned for less than a few seconds when it was suddenly hit in the head by a fist, and its body was severely injured, turning into smoke and disappearing. However, this little time enough summoners have landed in a safe position. The man with long hair stood on the ground, completely indifferent to the life and death of the spirit beast. He just looked up at the shimmering figure and extended his tongue to lick his lips. The greatest work was born. The long-haired man's pupils were filled with saliva, as if looking through the diffuse smoke at the world's most precious treasure. This amazing chakra. This is the history of an experimental product that is perfectly compatible with inter-column cells. The smoke slowly dissipated. A black-haired boy with bare upper body fell to the ground. This young man is very good. Looking. Perhaps most people can't help but feel a good impression when they see him, but the aura that blooms on him is something that people cannot ignore. That's what a massive chakra. There are not many ninjas in the entire ninja world who can achieve this. The boy looked at the long-haired man in front of him and curiously tilted his head, his clear eyes as innocent as a newborn baby. Who are you? The boy's questioning voice was somewhat innocent. The man with long hair is exceptionally handsome, with eyes resembling the erect pupils of a snake, and a repulsive snake-like cold aura emanating from his body. There is only one person in the entire ninja world, the Orochimaru, one of the three ninjas in Konoha. Upon hearing the boy's inquiry, Orochimaru couldn't help but furrow his brow and hoarse his voice, saying, "It seems that the experiment is still a bit dangerous. Is there a problem with the brain cells?" The young man tilted his head and his intimidating aura slowly dissipated. "Akihara is blissful." Orochimaru called out the boy's name. However, this name seemed to suddenly alert the young man. The ground beneath the boy's feet suddenly cracked open, and with the help of the instant acceleration of stepping on the ground, he extended his palm towards the head of Orochimaru. A wooden thorn crawled out of the boy's palm. The boy's surprise attack was too sudden. In no time, the wooden thorn is about to pierce through the head of Orochimaru. Orochimaru hastily raised his own fingers, and black curse marks quickly appeared throughout the young man's body, immobilizing him from moving. The seal of curse binding. By embedding the curse imprint in the target's body in advance, it can be activated at critical moments, allowing the target's body to emerge with a spell imprint technique that restricts movement. In order to avoid possible accidents, Orochimaru pre-arranged the curse seal inside the boy's body, but still felt that the scene that had just happened was somewhat dangerous now. Orochimaru controlled the boy's movements, and his mood finally calmed down slowly. A strange smile hung on his face again. It seems that we can still. Bang! The next moment, the chakra on the boy's body erupted again. Just the chakra uprising has stirred up a heart-wrenching sense of oppression. Under the powerful impact of chakra, each spell slowly dissipated, and the seal of the curse on the boy's body was slowly disintegrating and disappearing. Orochimaru's body has collapsed. The boy relied on chakra to break free from the curse mark on his body, glanced at the distance between Orochimaru and himself, and the confusion in his eyes began to slowly dissipate. Lord Orochimaru. The young man seemed to have regained consciousness, with a look of unease and apology. Sorry, Lord Orochimaru, my body just lost control and I couldn't control my movements. Fortunately, you helped me control my body with the curse seal. This is a normal phenomenon. Orochimaru felt the boy return to normal and slowly nodded, his smile returning to his face. He explained, many intercolumnar cell transplantation experiments have this kind of sequelae, at least you survived. How do you feel? Unprecedented goodness. The boy opened his arms and felt the strength on his fist. His stamina is very strong, chakra is very abundant, and his perception ability has also been greatly improved. But the blood inheritance limit is a bit strange. The young man reached out his palm and a wooden thorn crawled out of it, saying, this power is so powerful that it can be unleashed without even needing to do anything. This is just a negligible power within the bloodline. Orochimaru looked at the wooden thorn in the young man's palm, and his smile became even stronger. I will teach you the more powerful wooden ninjutsu, he said, do you still need to learn? The young man felt a little aggrieved and whispered, Lord Orochimaru. I thought that after the experiment was successful, you would use reincarnation without a corpse and use my body as a new container. It's not the time yet. Orochimaru's expression was somewhat meaningful. Immortal reincarnation is an eternal technique created by Orochimaru himself. Through spiritual transfer, seizing and occupying the body of others, achieving immortality, and even gaining additional physical strength and knowledge from others. Orochimaru has undergone 2 reincarnations without a corpse, the first of which was purely for experimentation and chose a relatively suitable body. The second reincarnation is because the body of the woman currently in use perfectly matches his soul, allowing him to fully unleash his power. According to the calculation of Orochimaru, this woman's body can still be used for a few more years. If discarded, it would be too wasteful. This kind of compatible body is not easy to find. The most important thing is that reincarnation requires at least a 3-year interval, and it hasn't been long since Orochimaru replaced the woman's body. Orochimaru also hopes that the young man in front of him will learn more ninjutsu, so that when he invades the young man's body in the future, Orochimaru can gain additional knowledge. Compared to semi-finished products, Orochimaru prefers finished products. As for whether the young man in front of him will betray himself after becoming stronger, Orochimaru is not worried about this issue, because he has watched the young man grow up from a young age. This little guy is called Qiuyuan Shenle. He is an orphan. Orochimaru knows very well about these children who have been abandoned by the world. As long as you give them a little warmth, they will pounce like moths, even if they are thrown into the fire, they will not choose to leave. In theory, this should also be the case for the youth Qiuyuan Shenle. The reality is quite absurd. Qiuyuan Shenle is an exception. The systematic prompt sounds in the young man's mind, reminding him of the fact that he is a transgressor. System prompt. Assisting Boss de Qiuyuan in conducting a human experiment, the task has been completed, and you have received a reward for genetic modification technology. Newcomer's new book, please collect it. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Qiuyuan Shenle. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Qiuyuan Shenle. Qiuyuan Shenle is a traveler. In the previous life, Qiuyuan Shenle was also called Qiuyuan. He was an incompetent migrant worker. After all, it is difficult to earn money by working, and Akihara only wants to find something to do. He has a fixed income and a stable life. This type of employee who cannot be bound by money has always been a hassle. Of course. Akihara has been walking on the path of unemployment and employment. After Akihara casually submitted his resume, a strange company sent him an interview invitation, hoping that he could go to the company for a face-to-face discussion. Akihara agreed. However, when Akihara woke up, he appeared in the world and became a teenager named Uchiha Shenle. Qiuyuan Shenle is one of the orphans adopted by Big Snake Pill. He stays in an experimental base all the year round, mainly responsible for the cleaning of the base, and works part-time as human experiment consumables. Fortunately, Qiuyuan Shenle has opened a system that will be appreciated by leaders if he works hard, giving him a feature that can be used for human experiments. The name of the system is fake, but its purpose is very real. As long as Qiuyuan Shenle chooses a superior and earnestly completes the task of this superior, he can obtain certain task rewards. If Qiuyuan Shenle wants to leave the world, there are only two options. The first option is that the world will perish. As long as the company goes bankrupt, he will definitely leave. The second option is to find a way to be expelled from this world and continue looking for a job in the next world. This seems quite difficult. Besides, Qiuyuan Shenle doesn't want to leave at once. This is a rare life experience. As long as you choose a superior, the system will also issue a new employee entry package. Unfortunately, the newly arrived Qiuyuan Shenle can only choose Big Snake Pill as the superior. Qiuyuan Shenle made a super feature named Endurance Science from the newcomer's entry gift package, so that it could survive this experiment of transplanting human cells between columns with a mortality rate of more than 99%. Name: Qiuyuan Shenle. Gender: male. Age: 10 years old. Date of birth: April 4th, 43rd year of the Kiba calendar. Chakra attributes: fire, wind, thunder, earth, water, yang. Chakra total: SSS. Physical fitness has been greatly enhanced, with strength and speed far exceeding that of ordinary ninjas. Perceptual ability has been improved, and the total amount of chakra has reached the limit of normal ninjas, derived from inter-column cell transplantation. Skills: Mu Dun Mu Fun Shen. Mu Dun Blood is a clone technique that evolved from the boundaries. After being defeated, the Mu Fun Shen can transform into branches and wrap around enemies. At the same time, due to its ability to serve as the source of life, compared to other clone techniques, and even more advanced shadow clone techniques, the Mu Fun Shen is more difficult to distinguish between true and false. Mu Dun would stand in. Mu Dun Blood's stand-in technique evolved from the boundaries and can be instantly replaced with a wooden stand-in when attacked. Mu Dun Mu Transformation. Mu Dun Blood's transformation technique after the evolution of the limited realm, using Mu Dun to transform into others, is more difficult to detect compared to ordinary transformation techniques. Wooden Escape. Cutting technique. Wooden escape. Blood can extend wooden thorns from various parts of the body after awakening to the limit. After using the wooden thorns to penetrate the enemy's body, it can be used to make the wooden thorns branch and grow again through sealing, piercing the enemy's body. Genetic modification technology, which can engrave special abilities into the genetic level by forcing genes, making it more convenient and safe than cell transplantation experiments. Features: non-imprint healing. With super self-healing ability, one can treat their own body without the need for imprinting, derived from columnar cell transplantation. Mu Dun Blood Inheritance Boundary. According to legend, the blood inheritance boundary between the ninja god Qianshou pillars is extremely rare in the ninja world, and even the descendants of Qianshou pillars cannot inherit it by blood, which originated from the transplantation of cells between the pillars. Ninja Science. When the host conducts human experiments that comply with the theory of ninja science are bound to succeed, and new employees will be rewarded with a gift package upon entering the workforce. Superior. Orochimaru. It is obvious. Choosing a good leader is important for the system. The abilities of this superior, Orochimaru, are all about technology and ruthlessness. According to Qiuyuan Shenle's observation, systematic task rewards are given according to the situation of his superiors, and his career in the tolerance world may need to change jobs many times. Just in the name of being out of control, Qiuyuan Shenle tested the attack snake pill and found that there was nothing wrong with attacking his superior and the system did not punish him. Perhaps the system encourages job hopping. After all, this kind of work system seems to require the appearance of many superiors. No, it should be said that the system of squeezing migrant workers must encourage Qiuyuan Shenle to work for more superiors. Qiuyuan Shenle also plans to find another superior in the tolerance world, because the superior character of Big Snake Pill is not very good, and he begins to covet his body, divine music. Big Snake One didn't know that the young man in front of him was already thinking about job hopping and planning for the future. He needed Qiuyuan Shenle to learn about Mu Dun's ninja. Next. Go to my. I have an ally in Kiba. When Orochimaru mentioned his ally, a strange smile couldn't help but curl up at the corner of his mouth and he said, "Learn Mukun ninjutsu from him and let me see how far you can go. Besides, also monitor his and my alliance." Yes. The youth Qiuyuan Shenle agreed, and looked up in some doubt. My village, the hometown of Big Snake Maru. Not bad. Orochimaru nodded and his voice became somewhat casual. Go and see my hometown, the scenery there is very beautiful. However, the memories in Orochimaru's eyes quickly faded away, and a strange smile appeared on his lips as he whispered, "One day, I will go back." Obviously. Orochimaru is uneasy and kind-hearted towards his hometown. Qiuyuan Shenle is non-committal about this. As a traveler, Qiuyuan Shenle knows a little about my village. My village. The most powerful ninja village in the ninja world, also the hometown of Orochimaru, is located in the wealthiest land of fire in the ninja world. The highest leader of Konoha is Hokage. Orochimaru and his two friends are collectively known as Konoha Sannin, who has made great contributions to Konoha and almost became Hokage. However, his teacher, the third Hokage Monkey Flying Sun Slayer, rejected him with a vote citing his inner darkness. This is unreasonable, which ninja in the ninja world is bright. As a result, the third generation Hokage Monkey Flying Sun chopped out a man who was as warm as the sun to serve as the fourth generation Hokage, which is truly convincing. Unfortunately, shortly after the succession of the fourth Hokage, the Nine Tails Rebellion in Kiba village shocked the ninja world. The fourth Hokage sacrificed himself to solve the Nine Tails Rebellion in Kiba village. However, the opportunity for Orochimaru did not come, but instead faced a crisis. Third generation Hokage rejected all candidates, regained power, and discovered that Orochimaru was secretly conducting human experiments, personally leading the dark forces to capture Orochimaru. Orochimaru had to defect and leave Kiba, becoming a wanted rebel ninja. He went from being a popular candidate in Hokage to becoming an S-level rebel ninja in the ninja world. The main reason for Orochimaru's deviance from the norm is that Orochimaru is still an ally of Konoha, and it is inevitable that Orochimaru will carry some blame. That ally, I'm not really a good person. Big Snake Pill wants to send Qiuyuan Shenle to the ally, but it is an opportunity for Qiuyuan Shenle to get the organization of my village. This is the establishment. The establishment of the 5 official institutions in the ninja world. Newcomer's new book, please collect it. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Where is my money? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Where is my money? How important is it to compile this thing? The previous Qiuyuan Shenle has no chance to be compiled. According to the worldly wisdom of the previous life, if Big Snake Pill offered to help arrange a compilation for Qiuyuan Shenle would have to go to the door to visit and send gifts during the holidays. The compilation of my village is still of great use to this world's Qiuyuan Shenle, which can be used to integrate into the world's most powerful tolerant village. My village is the center of this world. As long as Qiuyuan Shenle enters the leaves, it can know the direction of the world at any time, and even affect the future of the world. Besides, the system has also refreshed new superior requirements. System prompt. New work task. Go to Kiba to find the ally of Orochimaru, Shimura Tanzong, learn the ninjutsu of Muduan, and monitor the alliance between Orochimaru and Shimura Tanzong. This job task has no time limit. The concept of work tasks released by the system originates from superiors and has never been set a completion time, making people feel vaguely that this job can only be completed at an unknown time. However, this is the most alarming place for Qiuyuan Shenle. If one follows the routine, one can only sink into work for a lifetime. Only by taking the initiative to do something can one get rid of a job with an unknown deadline. Sha 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 sha, a sound of snakes crawling suddenly came out. A small white snake suddenly emerged from the grass, affectionately sticking to the legs of Orochimaru, looking very attached. Orochimaru bent down and spread out his palm. The little white snake opened its mouth and spit out a scroll, which fell into Orochimaru's palm. This scroll looks even larger than the body of a small white snake, making it difficult to imagine how it actually swallowed it. However, after all, it's in the realm of ninja. This kind of strange thing is still very common. Orochimaru opened the scroll in his hand, looked at the handwriting on the scroll, and a wicked smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, as if he had seen some interesting news on it. Strictly speaking, this is a stern questioning. This is a question from Qiuyuan Tuanzang. When Orochimaru was still in Muba, Qiuyuan Tuanzang had been secretly funding and supporting his Muduan human experimental research project, and even helping to find human experimental materials, of course. This kind of investment definitely requires returns. Orochimaru once gave back to Shimura Tanzo by giving him a successful experimental Mukun ninja, showing Shimura Tanzo hope for the project's success. After all, should investors see certain results, although the Muduan ninja is far less perfect than Akihara, that little hope also convinced Qiuyuan Tuanzai of the project prospect of Muduan's human experimental research. The Mu-Dun experiment very clever, I'm sure I can succeed. Even though Orochimaru has defected and left Kiba now, Shimura Tanzo is not afraid of the risk of being discovered and colluding with Yuzhibo, and still spares no effort in funding Orochimaru's research. But investors are always looking forward to investment returns. The messages sent by Qiuyuan Tuanzang were almost all full of his questioning. Where's my money? Where did you spend my money? Have you made any new achievements in your experimental project in the past few years? It was not until after the scroll of this letter that Shimura Tuanzang mentioned something. The previously unsuccessful Mukun experimental subject was discovered by the third-generation Hokage and placed under Hokage's direct command. He hoped that Orochimaru would help him cultivate a Mukun ninja through experiments. Similarly, Qiuyuan Tuanzang also mentioned the requirement for the meeting. After all, it has been several years since Orochimaru defected to Kiba and has long been separated from the monitoring of Qiuyuan Tuanzang. This investor also wants to check the progress of Orochimaru's project. Hee. Orochimaru ignored the questioning on the scroll and looked at the last request on the scroll with a light smile on his face. This is truly a coincidence. Coincidentally, I also have an explanation for him. What? Kiwara looked at the big snake pill in amazement. Is there anything that this boss will keep from him? It's nothing. Big Snake Pill smiled at Qiuyuan Shenle, reached out and stroked Qiuyuan Shenle's hair, and said lovingly, someone will come to pick you up soon. Before that, I'll teach you how to unlock a spell. What curse mark? The curse of the tongue's root is sealed. Orochimaru spoke lightly. The name of this curse seal sounds a bit scary, but its effectiveness is quite poor, and it's actually not scary at all. This is a seal spell created by Qiuyuan Tuanzang, mainly used to apply to his subordinates to prevent them from leaking his intelligence. By planting a tongue curse seal under a person's tongue, the person who has been planted with the curse seal will trigger the curse seal if they want to bring up news about Shimura Tuanzang, making them unable to speak or even move their body. Another purpose of Big Snake Pill is to let Qiuyuan Shenle go to Muye to take refuge in Jitsuan's group. It is to act as his undercover. From time to time, Qiuyuan Shenle will be required to pass messages to him. Of course, Qiuyuan Shenle will not be bound by the seal of tongue and curse. In addition to the method of removing the seal of tongue curse, Big Snake Pill also recalled his hometown in front of Qiuyuan Shenle, letting Qiuyuan Shenle know some stories about wood leaves. My teacher. 3 generations of fire shadow ape flying sun / He has ruled over Kiba for decades. Perhaps he is already very old, and that teacher has become somewhat lenient. Even when facing people who may harm the leaves. Young Qiuyuan Shenle picked his eyebrows. There are also many anecdotes about the characters in my village, and many secrets that young people know. The 3 generations fire shadow ape flying sun / makes people think that he is kind-hearted and soft-hearted, and that he is a kind-hearted old man because someone plays a cruel and ruthless role. Kiba is the most powerful organization in the ninja world, and it is never possible to always be under the sun. Naturally, it also requires some invisible characters to deal with dark and private affairs. Without a doubt. Jitsuan Tuanzang is such a character. Qiuyuan Shenle wants to know more about the stories of future bosses. Qiuyuan Shenle listened quietly to the memory of Big Snake Pill about the ape flying day chop, and asked curiously at the right time. Where is Big Snake Pill Lord Jitsuan Tuanzang who asked me to join him? What kind of person is he? Is there anything I need to pay attention to? Is it a group collection? The smile on Orochimaru's face suddenly became strong, and he spoke with a gloomy tone, Tanzo. Is the shadow hidden behind the 3rd Hokage? The life of a ninja is dark. Hokage is the source of ninja darkness. Humans always like to beautify themselves. My teacher likes to appear straightforward and approachable. So he needs someone to help him deal with some troubles in the dark. Orochimaru actually smiled a bit smugly, as if he had found the unbearable aspect of the 3rd generation Hokage. He continued to mock, my teacher has always been so hypocritical, and I don't want people to know that he has been exposed to darkness. The death rate is almost 100%. The experiment on the human body of Muduan was first proposed by him, but his will is too fragile to bear the cost of the experiment's continuous failure. Young Qiuyuan Shenle wants to pick out his ears. Why does Orochimaru always mention his teacher when he mentions Konoha? It has been several years since Kiba defected, why is Orochimaru still mocking the 3rd Hokage? Isn't it that Orochimaru didn't become the Hokage of Kiba village? Isn't it driving Orochimaru out of his hometown? Isn't it Orochimaru that you were at fault first? Now I just want to hear the story of Lord Tuanzang. New book for collection. Tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, the 2nd shift. Does anyone know the update time for the new book issue? End of this chapter. For Chapter 4 New Work Tasks. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 New Work Tasks. Orochimaru has a lot of resentment towards his teacher. Fortunately, Orochimaru may know that he is an adult now, so there should be a limit to speaking ill of him behind his back, and he should not show an immature side in front of a teenager. Anyway, my teacher is so kind that he is a bit timid and doesn't want to be exposed to darkness. If you encounter 3 generations of Hokage in Kiba, be sure to stay away from the old man. His mouth is best at deceiving people, and people are always easily brainwashed by his sweet words. But Lord Orochimaru, you are also quite good at brainwashing others. Qiuyuan Shenyue's heart couldn't help roast. Perhaps. Orochimaru seemed to have thought of something and smiled lightly at the corner of his mouth, saying, I don't need to worry about this either. Tanzo absolutely dares not let you get close to the 3rd Hokage. Big Snake Pill stretched out his hand and patted Qiuyuan Shenle on his shoulder, looking a little more serious. Shenle, you are my most perfect work, the first generation Huoying Qian Shizu is known as the god of ninjas, and you are almost perfectly assimilated with his cells, you are the most talented child of this era. The boy nodded silently. I already knew about this before the Mu Dun experiment, otherwise why would I take the risk of accepting human experiments? So, what about the matter of Tuanzang? Fortunately, Big Snake Pill did not forget the question of Qiuyuan Shenle, and casually talked about Jitsuan Tuanshang, which seemed to have little respect for his investors. However, Qiuyuan Shenle listened carefully. Jitsuan Tuanzang is his future boss. Especially this guy is undoubtedly the most difficult boss to deal with in Kiba village. It is necessary to inquire about his boss's preferences in advance for how to carry out future work. Jitsuan Tuanzang. The fire shadow of my village assists. A short-sighted yet ambitious old man. Due to the fact that the three generations of Hokage, Monkey Flying Sun / and Shimura Tanzo were life and death companions during their youth, Hokage showed great respect to Shimura Tanzo and gave him considerable power, secretly allowing him to help Kiba deal with dirty troubles. Youngster Qiuyuan Shenle felt that the Big Snake Pill was not very kind. The little intelligence that Orochimaru has revealed is not as much as he knows. How can he carry out his work in Konoha in the future? Obviously, Orochimaru did not notice this. Big Snake Pill thinks that the young Qiuyuan Shenle should not like such a gloomy old guy as Jitsuan Tuanzao. He would like to talk to Qiuyuan Shenle about some children he pays attention to in Mai has a very interesting child. That little guy has shown outstanding talent since he was young, and happens to have the blood inheritance limit that rivals Mu Dun's form like a natural enemy. Who is it? Young Qiuyuan Shenle is really a little curious. In this era, there seem to be quite a few geniuses in the village, and the geniuses that can be remembered by Orochimaru are definitely not ordinary people. Yuzhibo Itachi. Big Snake Pill said a name that made Qiuyuan Shenle familiar, and continued to say. That little guy is a real genius. Even in peaceful times, he can't hide his ninja quality and talent far beyond his peers. Orochimaru remembered seeing a young Uchiha Itachi training scene in a training room and couldn't help but marvel at the little guy's talent. That kid. If it were him, maybe he could awaken a higher level Sharingan. Young Qiuyuan's expression of Shenyue was strange. However, as a migrant worker, Qiuyuan Shenle is very professional. Seeing that Big Snake Pill is obsessed with that talented child, he takes the initiative to share his boss's worries and difficulties. If Lord Orochimaru wants to see Uchiha Itachi again, I will find an opportunity in the future and find a way to bring him to you. Okay. Orochimaru gave a approving look to the witty boy. Mu Dun and Shu Lunyan are undoubtedly the two most excellent blood heirs. If Qiuyuan Shenle can really bring Yuzhibo to him in the future, Big Snake Pill plans to let two geniuses fight face to face, and whoever wins will invade his body. As for whether Uchiha Itachi will agree to become a container, Orochimaru doesn't care. He only needs a glance to make Uchiha Itachi unable to move. The surface of juvenile Qiuyuan Shenle is still very respectful. If in the future he can really bring Yuzhibo Weasel to Big Snake Pill, Qiuyuan Shenle plans to let Big Snake Pill and Yuzhibo Weasel fight in front of each other, so that Big Snake Pill adults will realize the power of will-I writing and become totally addicted to will-I writing. Besides, the system recognizes that this is the work requested by the boss to be completed. System prompt. New work task, search for opportunities, bring Uchiha Itachi to the front of Orochimaru. This kind of work Qiuyuan Shenle swore to finish it well. Even if these two people meet in some places they should not see in the future, Qiuyuan Shenle must find a way to let them see each other again. Time flies a bit too fast. Perhaps it's because Orochimaru is too obsessed with researching experiments. Time passes a bit slowly. Maybe Qiuyuan Shenle is too overdue to go to Mai. The fourth day. Finally, someone has arrived at this base. An old man leaning on a cane appeared around the base, his head covered in bandages, even wrapped around one eye socket, as if someone had scratched one eye. Two ninjas closely followed the old man, looking vigilantly at the nearby environment, afraid that the old man would encounter danger in this base. Master Tuanzang. One of the ninjas looked at the rubble on the ground and advised in a low voice, there was a fierce battle here not long ago. Perhaps Orochimaru has encountered an enemy, so we cannot be here. It's not an enemy. Big Snake Pill came out with Qiuyuan Shenle, smiled and said, it's just a little noise made by Shenle after the successful experiment. Two ninjas immediately stopped in front of the old man. Although they know there is a connection between the old man and Orochimaru, in terms of identity, Orochimaru is an S-level trader in the village. Just a rebellious identity, Orochimaru is a dangerous person. Step back. The old man retreated from his subordinates with one sentence and looked up at Orochimaru. He spoke slowly, long time no see, Orochimaru. It seems you've been doing well lately. When the old man speaks, his pace is a bit slow, as if to make others try to hear him clearly, in order to show his superiority. However, the old man soon revealed his characteristics. Without waiting for Big Snake Pill to answer, he looked at Qiuyuan Shenle nearby and asked in a deep voice, what you just said. The experiment was successful. This child. Not bad, it's what you want. The corner of Orochimaru's mouth curled up and he spoke slowly, compared to the previous immature work, the mu done on Shinraku's body is even more powerful. Leave this child to me. The old man half squinted his eyes and spoke with an unquestionable firmness, only Muye can use the power of mu done. Please collect it. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. New Superiors and New Gains. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 5. New Superiors and New Gains. Mu Dun's Blood Inheritance. Undoubtedly, it is Qiuyuan Tuanzang's lifelong persistence. As for what Qiuyuan Tuanzang said, only Muye can use the power of mu dun. Everyone present knows it's just a joke, and no one will take it seriously. This old man is talking about doing everything for the sake of my, but behind his back, he is eager to hold all his strength in his own hands. No. Qiuyuan Tuanzang hopes to gain these powers even more. If we could make a second wooden ninja, this means that Orochimaru's technology is barely considered mature. Qiuyuan Tuanzang's heart was filled with passion. Perhaps he could also transplant the cells between the pillars and awaken the first generation of Huoying Qianshou's mu dun blood inheritance. The old man's gaze suddenly fell from the boy's body onto Orochimaru's face, and he immediately asked Orochimaru the question he most wanted to know the answer to. Deshimaru, does the awakening of mu dun from this child mean that the interstitial cells have been successfully transplanted into others' bodies? Cannot. Orochimaru shook his head and said, as if cold water had extinguished the old man's heartache. The successful transplantation of cells from Shinraku's body is just a chance occurrence in the experiment. Okay. The old man's mood suddenly became somewhat unhappy. However, I have found another experimental approach through this experiment, but I still need some precious experimental materials and a large amount of funding, said Orochimaru with a smile of ambiguity at the corner of his mouth. Kiwara took a surprised look at the Big Snake Pill. The success of this inter-column cell transplantation experiment is entirely due to one's own characteristic of ninja science. Any human experiment conducted on oneself, as long as it conforms to the scientific theory of the ninja realm, is bound to succeed. How could it possibly lead to any new experimental ideas for Orochimaru? The investor Qiuyuan Tuanzang is not very clear about the situation. The old man's eyebrows furrowed slightly, seeming a bit difficult. Finally, he spoke up and agreed, what do you need? Make a list, and I will try my best to prepare it for you. I hope next time you can see something that satisfies me. Definitely next time. Orochimaru nodded, and the smile at the corner of his mouth gradually became stronger. Then I'll take him away. Jitsuan Tuanzang waved to the boy, and a touch of gentleness appeared in the old and gloomy voice. Child. Is it called Qiuyuan Shenle? Orochimaru nodded again, pushed the young man's shoulder, and smiled as he spoke, treat this child well. I don't want him to have any problems, maybe his body will be used in future experiments. Young Qiuyuan Shenle was pushed to Tuankang. I understand. Jitsuan Tuanzang nodded and agreed. Jitsuan Tuanzang reached out and stroked the boy's hair. After thinking for a moment, he said, from today on, you will be a member of the root. Forget your name, your code name is Jia. The young man's expression was immediately shocked. His mother has the old man lived too long. Qiuyuan Shenle almost forgot this. All members of the root organization under the command of Jitsuan Tuanzang will be forced to give up their names and emotions, and there is only one code symbol for their entire lives. However, system prompt. You have a new superior, Jitsuan Tuanzang, reward new employees with a big gift package, and open new features. System prompt. You have a new superior, Monkey Flying Sun / reward new employees with a big gift package, and unlock new features. The darkness of the ninja realm, when the host needs intelligence, they will receive the required intelligence content, which will be rewarded as a gift package for new players entering the profession. Professor Ninja, when the host learns ninjutsu that conforms to the theory of ninjutsu is bound to be learned successfully, and newcomers are rewarded with a gift package when entering the vocational college. Yes, Lord Tuanzang. Qiuyuan Shenle quickly agreed. Although Jitsuan Tuanzang is not a good old man and even wants to change his name, this superior's big gift package is really quite powerful. And once you become a subordinate of Jitsuan Tuanzang, you can automatically obtain the Wood Leaf organization. In theory, all the ninjas in Kiba village are subordinates of the third-generation Hokage Monkey Flying Sun / and they have also received another new onboarding gift package through this. Besides these two characteristics, whether it is the intelligence ability brought by, the darkness of tolerance, or the learning ability brought by, the professor of ninja, all are urgently needed by Qiuyuan Shenle. Jitsuan Tuanzang is a good leader. Qiuyuan Shenle feels that it doesn't matter if someone changes his name. In the future, when Jitsuan Tuanshang doesn't want to live, he has to find a way to leave a whole body for Tuanshang adults. Jitsuan Tuanshan did not understand that the young man around him had thought of giving up his life for him. He waved to two of his subordinates and planned to leave here with Qiuyuan Shenle. Before leaving, Jitsuan Tuanzang seemed to have thought of something before suddenly turning around and looking at Orochimaru. He said, by the way, this base is no longer safe. Orochimaru's eyebrows immediately furrowed. Compared with other bases, this base has more complete experimental equipment. Even because of Qiuyuan Shenle, a modern educated traveler, it has always been in good order, which makes Big Snake Pill want to regard this base as a long-term stronghold. I received intelligence. Jitsuan Tuanzang's face was somewhat unpleasant, as if mentioning someone he didn't really want to mention. Your old friend has appeared in a small town near this base. I know now. Orochimaru immediately thought of a tall, white-haired man. Orochimaru's expression was also somewhat unattractive. He gritted his teeth and snorted, that guy from Zelaya. He's really haunted. Someone reported his whereabouts to me. Since you left Kiba, Zilai has been secretly spying on your news. He is as foolish and naive as your teacher, but it is troublesome for us all. Jitsuan Tuanzang has always disliked Zelaya, whose temperament is somewhat similar to that of Ape Flying Sun Slayer. He spoke coldly, if we find the opportunity, it's best to kill him, so that he won't cause trouble again. I know now. Orochimaru's face suddenly became even uglier, and he said in a deep voice, Zelaya, that guy is not so easy to deal with. I can leave Longma behind to help you. Jitsuan Tuanzang pointed to a guard ninja beside him and said, Ryoma and you are old partners, between you. No need. Orochimaru coldly rejected the proposal and said nonchalantly, since then. That useless person has been no match for me since ninja school. Then I'll leave first. Qiuyuan Tuanzang nodded. Qiuyuan Shenle was a little speechless standing nearby. As Mr. Tuanzang gets older, his eyes are just not good, and he can't even tell such a small thing. It's better to hope that Orochimaru can kill Zillai in this lifetime than to hope that you can kill the third-generation Hokage monkey flying sun / in this lifetime. New book for collection. The second one is tomorrow. End of this chapter. 6. Chapter 6. You and our root organizations will do not quite align. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. You don't quite align with the will of our root organization. On the way back to my Jitsuan Tuanshang has always believed that Qiuyuan Shenle is a clever child, and most children who are regarded as experimental subjects will be frightened to be timid and obedient by the horrible human experiment. Result. This little guy is an exception. Along the way, Qiuyuan Shenle showed great curiosity about the outside world, and even asked them whether they could fish when they were resting by the river. Fishing. Only those with a lazy attitude towards life will fish. As the root that supports the darkness of the wooden leaves, how could one waste time on such things? Even if it is absolutely necessary, they will only use the method of forking fish to supplement food. Jitsuan Tuanzang realized that this child may have a great curiosity about the world and may not have seen the real darkness. After returning, he needs to be well nurtured. As long as the little one sees the cruelty of this world, he will definitely become obedient and sensible. Jitsuan Tuanzang is very good at taking care of children, especially at cultivating a slightly normal-minded child into a tool for killing people. However, Qiuyuan Shenle soon changed his mind. Mu dun. Cutting technique. Qiuyuan Shenle demonstrated a wave of fork fish operation by the river with wooden dun. A wooden thorn pierced out of the boy's palm and was suddenly plunged into the river, piercing through a large fish that was over a meter long. The fish immediately struggled violently. The next moment, the young man's fingers rise together. The wooden thorn unexpectedly forked and grew again. A group of densely packed wooden thorns grew inside the body of the big fish, completely penetrating its body, and the blood instantly dyed the river red. This kind of wooden escape, it looks extremely cruel. Master Tuanzang, I caught a fish. Qiuyuan Shenle looked at Jitsuan Tuanshang with a happy face. The young man's smile appeared incredibly innocent and pure, but under this bloody fishing method, it appeared particularly cold and heartless, as if killing life was a pleasure for him. This is a natural tool for killing. It's really. The old man gazed at the bloody scene before him and slowly uttered a rare praise. The exquisite Mu Dun is a good child. Whether it's the Mu Dun bloodline on the boy's body or the boy's attitude towards life, Jitsuan Tuanzang feels that he has really found a good seedling this time. In the future, as long as he ensures his loyalty to himself. My village. The richest ninja village in the ninja world. Jitsuan Tuanshang was worried that his whereabouts would be discovered, and he also wanted to see how perfect the talent of Uchiha Shenle's Mu Dun was. He hurried back to Mai with the boy. When Jitsuan Tuan hid back in the village, he never liked to walk through the gate, but rather liked to sneakily open the sealed barrier from the back mountain of Mai and return to the base of the root organization. Qiuyuan Shenle jumped into a well with Jitsuan Tuanshang and felt the gloomy atmosphere when he entered the root organization base. This boss, the style of action is too dark. The entire base of the root organization is hidden underground. Even though many classical pavilions and towers have been built inside the base of the root organization, and some are even luxuriously attached to the mountain walls, they cannot change the gloomy feeling under the cover of darkness. Bang bang bang, the dull sound of knocking on the wood echoed underground. A group of people couldn't help but turn their heads and look at the young man who suddenly knocked on the railing. Jia. Qiuyuan Tuanzang's expression was somewhat displeased, expressing dissatisfaction with the boy's actions and coldly saying, "What are you doing? Be quiet." "Yes, Lord Tuanzang." Qiuyuan Shenle answered and explained. "I thought it would be made of stone, but it turned out to be wooden. Lord Big Snake Pill once mentioned it." "Shut up." A hint of anger appeared on Qiuyuan Tuanzang's face, his gaze fixed on the boy, and his voice icy as he said, "Jia, from today on, completely forget the name of Orochimaru." "Yes, Lord Tuanzang." Qiuyuan Shenle agreed again and continued. "The man mentioned that the underground air is humid and the wooden buildings are easy to rot." Everyone present fell silent. Qiuyuan Tuanzang thought that he might have been too reserved when he spoke earlier, and wanted to repeat that he wanted this little guy to forget about the person Orochimaru instead of just the name Orochimaru, which made him seem a bit too calculating. "I'll handle my official duties." Qiuyuan Tuanzang shook his hands somewhat helplessly and instructed his subordinates, "Longma, help him arrange a place to live, let him understand Jen's will, and then take him to see me." "Yes." The oil girl dragon horse nodded respectfully and looked coldly at the young man, "Follow me, don't run around. This base has many forbidden areas for mechanisms." "I understand." Qiuyuan Shenle followed Yun Vlongma lovingly. The base scale of the root organization is very large. The entire base is like a huge well, with a group of tall classical buildings tightly attached to the stone walls, and corridor bridges connecting these buildings together. This is your residence." Yun Vlongma took Qiuyuan Shenle to a dormitory. There is only one cabinet in the entire room, with a bed on the floor and a lamp in the corner, which looks a bit empty. Qiuyuan Shenle looked at his place and asked, "Help me set up a bed. I don't like sleep on the floor." "No." The oil girl Longma shook her head and said coldly, "The members of the root don't need to have useless emotions or external feelings. All you need to do is accept the arrangement." Qiuyuan Shenle picked his eyebrows and asked, "This? Are you my superior? Or will you be my superior in the future?" "No, I won't either." The oil female dragon horse shook her head again and replied, "Only the Grand Tutor is the only superior, and everyone's actions are based on the orders of the Grand Tutor. In theory, it is like this. In fact, there are also some hidden rules at the root, and as the personal escort of Qiuyuan Tuanzang, Yunu Longma's identity is clearly higher than other members. However, the members at the root had no distractions in their hearts, only the tasks assigned by the Tibetan leader. When did they ever care about the status of superiors and subordinates? Now I pass on the will of the root to you." The oil girl Longma didn't notice the boy's emotions and continued on, thinking for herself, "The members of the root have no names, no emotions, no past, no future. In their hearts, there is only a task. The will that supports the big tree of Muye behind us is deeply rooted in our roots. What's your name?" Qiuyuan Shenle raised his first question. "Oil female dragon horse." "Isn't there a name for this? You're not a member of the root. This is not a name." The answer from the oil woman dragon horse was very quick, as if he had already undergone similar brainwashing. "Oil woman dragon horse is my code name at the root. It was only when Lord Tuanzang became familiar with my past that he designated my name as my code name at the root. Are you remembering your past?" Qiuyuan Shenle seems to have found a loophole and slowly said, "This is not in line with our root's will. Good morning. Please collect it." I changed the code name and used A again, because during the review, I found that the root already has B. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Why do you dare to call this name? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Why do you dare to call this name? The oil female dragon horse has an illusion. Mingming Qiuyuan Shenle was just a newcomer to roots. However, when he spoke, he felt like the leader in charge of personnel of roots. Myself instead, it looks like a newcomer coming to apply. Yuna Longma thinks that there is something wrong with this conversation and communication. After thinking for a while, Yun Longma found that she could not answer the questions raised by Qiuyuan Shenle or interpret the will of root. Can't solve the problem, it can only solve the person who raised the problem. The Yun Longma simply refused to tangle with Qiuyuan Shenle and said coldly, "You shouldn't care about the elders' affairs, kid, just take care of your own problems. I just don't quite understand what the will of the root represents." Qiuyuan Shenle looked at the Yun Longma and asked, "What is my life if there is no past or future?" Task. The oil woman Longma immediately answered this question. Just take the task seriously and it's enough, there's no need to think about what your life is. Then tell me. Qiuyuan Shenle raised a philosophical question. All the tasks I will do in the future will become the past, so will the past tasks be meaningful? Will the tasks I have not done in the future be meaningful? The oil girl dragon horse fell silent. After understanding the philosophical thinking put forward by Uchiha Shenle, the ninja from the oil girl family finally decided to choose the simplest solution. It is enough to seriously perform the task, without thinking about whether your task is meaningful. Qiuyuan Shenle couldn't help admiring each other. Oil girl Longma was afraid that this little guy would raise any strange philosophical questions again, and planned to completely cut off all the messy thoughts of this little guy from his words. You are a member of the root. There's no need to think about these issues at all. What you need to do is forget your name, forget your emotions, forget your past, forget your future, as long as you carry out the task assigned to you by Lord Tuanzang. Okay, I got it. Qiuyuan Shenle answered perfunctorily. I hope you can do it. Just as the oily female dragon horse thought she had finally solved the problem, a fist suddenly hit his lower abdomen, hitting him hard against the wall. I understand all the principles. Young Qiuyuan Shenle twisted his wrist and said in a cold voice, but Yun Longma, who allows you to call a what? The oily female dragon horse spat out a mouthful of blood in shock on her face. Whether from the perspective of identity, strength, or even logical research, the oil female dragon horse cannot come up with why this newcomer wants to ambush her. The most important thing is this little ghost has great strength and amazing speed. The physical quality of Qiuyuan Shenle is amazing. The Yun Longma has no idea about it. The big snake pill also relies on the mantra seal to bind Qiuyuan Shenle, so as to avoid the sneak attack of teenagers. The oil female dragon horse, which had no reaction at all, was directly and severely injured by the young man's sneak attack, and even her internal organs were smashed and damaged with a punch. The name, was chosen by Lord Tuanzang for me. Qiuyuan Shenle walked in front of Yun Longma, looked at this seriously injured elder, and explained in a cold voice why he had attacked Yun Longma. Starting from today, remember it to me. This world. Only Lord Tuanzang can use the name, to refer to me. The oil female dragon horse cannot understand the young man's brain circuits. This little ghost, there must be some brain problems. The oily female dragon horse opened her mouth and spat out blood again, saying in a voice, Jia is just a code name, and it is also the only code name you can use in the future. But it's not something you can address. Qiuyuan Shenle shook his head, as if thinking for a while, and said. If you come to me later, you can call me by the name I used to use. Anyway, our roots are not a special case without the use of the past name. I know. Wait, this is not quite right. Oil Maiden Ryoma looked at the young man standing beside her and decided not to be influenced by the boy's way of thinking. Gradually, she began to tend towards normalcy. Children are still too arrogant, maybe Orochimaru doted on you too much before. The oily female dragon horse struggled slowly and fell off the wall, holding onto her painful lower abdomen. She endured the pain and said, newcomer. Really needs a lesson. A group of black insects crawled out of his mouth. This scene looks a bit scary and frightening. This is a secret technique originating from the Oil Maiden tribe in Kiba village, which involves raising insects inside the body and using them for combat. Little devil, it's better to show respect to the senior. The Oil Lady Dragon Horse controls the insects and quickly entangles Qiuyuan Shenle. Qiuyuan's face changed slightly. Even small insects, when densely packed, can make people feel a bit tingled, especially since these insects are strange species in the ninja world. However, insects are ultimately just insects. The speed is pitifully slow. Qiuyuan Shenle jumped at his feet, flew around the insects, and jumped at the Oil Lady Dragon Horse. He was very clear that these people were very weak. Bang! The boy's fist once again landed on the oily female dragon horse. This time, the feeling on her fist didn't hold much weight. It felt like it had hit the air, and indeed it had hit the air. The body of the oily female dragon horse instantly turned into a group of insects. Is this a worm clone? Qiuyuan Shenle could not help staring, her eyes wide. Secret technique. Insect Jade. This group of insects completely surrounded Qiuyuan Shenle's body in the blink of an eye, like smelling some delicious food and crazily biting chakra in Qiuyuan Shenle's body. Qiuyuan Shenle is covered with a layer of insect fog, as if covered with a layer of black clothes. The body of the oil female dragon horse appeared slowly, looking at the young man surrounded by her own insects and sneering as she spoke up to educate the new person. Little ghost. Don't be scared by insects. When I released the bug, I had already secretly created a bug clone. Based on my understanding of a little ghost your age, at the beginning of the battle, you will only attack my body with your fists, and using some low-level ninjutsu to set traps is enough. Now, be well behaved. The oily female dragon horse spread out her hands, seemingly satisfied with the first lesson she gave to the newcomer. Your chakra inside will soon be devoured clean by my parasite. Then make your bug work harder. The voice of Qiuyuan Shenle came out from the insect fog and said. Oil Lady Longma, haven't you satisfied them? What's going on? The oil girl dragon horse frowned in surprise. Has this little ghost lost the ability to resist yet? Is this kid's chakra a bit too abundant? What surprised the oily female dragon horse the most was that this little ghost's psychological resilience was a bit too strong, surprisingly not afraid of these dense insects at all. This is also a waste of time. Qiuyuan Shenle poked out his arm, watched some insects that had eaten too much fall from his body, and slowly concluded. Insects are just insects after all. What insects should do is hide in the corner and live. Instead of arrogantly thinking that by relying on quantity, one can solve an enemy with unimaginable power. Sleep. Continue to seek collection. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. The will of the Grand Tutor is the will of the root, the will of the root. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. The will of the Grand Tutor is the will of the root, and the will of the root may not necessarily be the will of the Grand Tutor. The oil girl dragon horse has never seen such a scene before. Qiuyuan Shenle just stood there, and the dense insects around the young people fell on the ground, and the ground was full of thick insects. How could an enemy be casually bitten by insects? How can self-raised insects eat too much? The oil woman dragon horse has used family secrets to deal with many enemies. Whenever an enemy is entangled by a swarm of insects he controls, they will be eaten up by the swarm and lose their combat ability. This time finally, an accident occurred. As Qiuyuan Shenle said, insects are only insects after all. The amount of chakras that insects can accommodate is limited, and the imagination of the caterpillar, the oil dragon horse, is also limited. I never imagined that someone's chakra could be so abundant that even the parasitic insects in their body would lose their ability to move. Secret technique. Cocoon. There are other methods for Yunu Longma. The Oil Girl tribe often encounters the problem of insufficient insects during battles, so they also have a unique secret technique of using chakras to hatch cocoons and hatch more insects. Sending bad worms. Hurricane. A group of insects atomized the tornado and hit Qiuyuan Shenle. I have said. Insects are just insects after all. Qiuyuan Shenle crushed the floor with one foot, and chakra in his body burst. The chakra fluctuations on the boy's body made the oily female dragon horse feel like she was in a great crisis, let alone the insects he hatched. The insect mist that encountered the impact of chakra suddenly froze, as if being blown by a hurricane. Countless insects flew out, all of them being thrown onto the wall by this strong impact force. This chakra. A cold sweat flowed down the forehead of the oily female dragon horse. In all these years, it is the first time that the oil woman dragon horse has seen someone simply unleashing their chakra inside their body to form such a powerful presence. Just his chakra strength alone, the oil woman dragon horse can be said to be the only one in his life. This little ghost, he's a pretty scary guy. When Yuna Longma was still amazed, she saw Kawara's body suddenly turned into a black shadow and rushed towards him, which made him avoid in a hurry. It seems like there isn't much combat skill. Oil Girl Longma looked at the young man's somewhat clumsy attack style and felt a little relieved. Although chakra is very powerful, he has never received formal ninja training. It has to be said that this little ghost has a good talent, but there is still a long way to go to become a strong combat force in the root organization. Little guy. Ninja battles are not just about looking at chakra. The mood of Yun Longma slowly relaxed, and quietly appeared beside Qiuyuan Shenle, hitting his elbow heavily on his shoulder and neck. Qiuyuan Shenle felt a sharp pain on his shoulder. However, when Qiuyuan Shenle turned around, the oil girl Longma had already sidled around the boy and kicked him on the chest. Qiuyuan Shenle flies out. The oily female dragon horse flew forward and chased after the young man, tightly clasping his neck and pressing his body against the wall. Now. Are you willing to be honest? A strange smile appeared on the boy's face. This eerie smile tightened the heart of the oily female dragon horse. Does this little ghost have any other means of combat? Now that this little ghost is under his control, can he still seal and cast ninjutsu? Click. Qiuyuan Shenle's clothes suddenly broke. A sharp wooden thorn crawled out of his body and hit the shoulder of the oil female dragon horse. This is Muji ninjutsu. Is it surprising that the wooden thorn of the Mu-Dun blood successor can only be cast through ninjutsu, but rather grows from within the body of the blood successor? I was too careless. The oil girl Longma immediately realized her crisis. A wooden thorn, the oil female dragon horse naturally won't be afraid, but he has seen the boy using the thorn to fish with his own eyes, and knows clearly how dangerous this wooden thorn is. This wooden thorn, it will grow within its own body. Even if this wooden thorn is only in the shoulder position, once it branches and grows inside the body, it will definitely be able to penetrate your entire body. If you want to get rid of the crisis, either stop the young man from forming a seal, or pull out this wooden thorn as soon as possible. However, it's too late. Bang! At the moment when the young dragon horse lost his mind, Qiuyuan Shenle hit the wall with his elbow, and the young dragon horse flew out with his body. Mu-Dun, cutting. Qiuyuan Shenle raised his finger. I give up. Oil female dragon horse quickly lifted her palm. This little ghost is not a kind and timid person. Oil girl dragon horse has witnessed it with her own eyes. This is a lunatic who takes killing life as a pleasure, let alone die in the hands of this little ghost. It's too suffocating. What an offense, senior. Qiuyuan Shenle's face immediately showed a kind smile. We will talk about each other in the future. I call you master, and you call me Lord Shenle. Yun Longma doesn't know how to roast in her heart. A newcomer who wants to ride on his head on the first day. As a loser, it's hard to argue with the oily female dragon horse. This little ghost is willing to call him a senior, which can be considered a bit of respect. Qiuyuan Shenle looked at the silent Yun Vlongma and asked with a smile, Master, I respect you so much. Do you even want to call me Shenle? This. The oil girl dragon horse's face was somewhat awkward. This goes against Root's will. The will of the Root. Qiuyuan Shenle slowly shook his head, and the young man's smile seemed naive and innocent. The will of the Root doesn't matter to me, but the will of the group Tibetan adults is the most important. This little kid is really sensible. Oil girl dragon horse has to admit that this little ghost actually caught the key. But the will of Lord Tuanzang is the will of the Root, the will of the Root. The will of the Root is just an extension of the will of Lord Tuanzang. Qiuyuan Shenle interrupted the words of Yun Longma and retorted. The will of the leader Tuanzang is the will of the Root, but the will of the Root is not necessarily the will of the leader Tuanzang. As you said, we obey the orders of the leader Tuanzang. Should the leader Tuanzang still obey the orders of our Root? You're right. The oil girl Longma felt that her brain was not enough and wanted to prove her point. However, our roots are one with Lord Tuanzang. Qiuyuan Shenle looked at the Yun Vlongma discontentedly and asked, We are not one with Tuanshang adults. We are just subordinates of Tuanshang adults. We can sacrifice for Tuanshang adults. Do you want Tuanshang adults to sacrifice for us? Of course not. The oil female dragon horse shook its head quickly. Although the Yun Vlongma still felt something was wrong, he could not refute Qiuyuan's view of Shenle. This little guy said it quite reasonably. A feeling rose again in the heart of the oil girl dragon horse. How could this little guy be more loyal to Lord Tuanzang than his own guard who had followed him for many years? Alright, don't think about it anymore. Qiuyuan Shenle waved his hand, looked at the disordered room, and said, First, take me to see Master Tuanzao, and then help me arrange a room for me in the evening, with a bed in advance. Sure. The oil female dragon horse agreed. This old member of the Root organization believes that this small matter does not violate principles. I slept too late last night. Second update. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. The current situation of the ninja realm. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. The current situation of the ninja realm. The base of the Root organization. The office of Jitsuan Tuanzang. As the Fire Shadow assistant of Kiba and the supreme leader of the Root organization, Jitsuan Tuanzang's official duties are quite busy, receiving intelligence scrolls from various channels every day. Based on the summary information of these intelligence scrolls, Jitsuan Tuanzang needs to think about how to gain benefits for himself. No, it should be said that let my gain benefits. Rain country. Still in civil war. The leader of Huoying village, Shanjiao Fish, is half hidden and cannot escape. Shanjiao Fish Bangkong is a bastard who helped him besiege the Shao organization back then and is still unwilling to abide by our alliance. News from the Wind Country. The daimyo of the Wind Country has once again reduced the funding for Huoying village. One of the people in Huoying village, Julie, was assassinated and rampaged. He was suppressed by the 4th generation Wind Shadow Luo Sha with the use of magnetic escape and sand gold. Is Huoying village still trying to use the tail beast? News from the land of the earth. Terrorist explosions often occur outside Yenin village. Suspected to be the behavior of a student of the 3rd generation of Tsukiyoshi Inoki, the pharmacist No Yu is really able to help Muye gather a lot of information. However, why does this woman want a photo of the pharmacist's bag again? News from the Kingdom of Thunder. Some people claim that the 4th generation Thunder Shadow has taken away the secret technique passed down from generation to generation. Yenin village has always been ambitious. In the past, they wanted to seize the white eyes of Mai. We must find a way to suppress them and try to incite them to conflict with Yenin village. The land of water. There is still no news. What exactly happened in Huoying village? All the spies who wanted to infiltrate Huoying village have disappeared. Is there any conspiracy brewing? Jitsuan Tuanzai sat at his desk with a gloomy expression, flipping through all the external news before looking at another stack of intelligence placed on his desk. This stack of intelligence is an internal movement in my village. Look at these 2 days of leaving. What happened in the village? As an ambitious elderly person, Jitsuan Tuanzang must not only focus on the outside, but also send people to secretly monitor the interior of my, clean up some unstable factors related to my, and find ways to maintain the surface stability of the village. Ninja School New Semester Opening Ceremony. 3 generations of Hokage monkey flying sun / give a speech at school. When Jitsuan Tuanzang looked at the news, his face suddenly turned a bit ugly, but he could only sneer coldly and say, Huoying didn't do it that way. Monkey. Still likes to waste time doing these useless work. This news is of little use. What Jitsuan Tuanzang hates the most is this kind of thing, constantly reminding him that his old friend, Monkey Flying Sun / is still working as Hokage in the sunshine. However, Jitsuan Tuanzang had to keep an eye on Ape Flying Sun / hoping to catch him in some way, preferably to drive him out of the position of Hokage or try killing him. Jitsuan Tuanzang casually flipped through the news of the opening ceremony and saw the intelligence on the second piece of paper, which was the registration list for new students at the ninja school. Hinata. The ancestral daughter of the Hinata clan. Yunuji is Inazukaya. Nara Lumaru from the Nara clan, Aikido Ding from the Aikido clan, and Inoue in the mountains from the Aikido clan are all present in this generation of pigs, deer, and butterflies. Yuzhibo Fuyue's youngest son, Yuzhibo Sasuke. Surprisingly, in order to please the monkey, he named his youngest son after the monkey's father. In general, Jitsuan Tuanzang doesn't care about these children. Unfortunately, there is a child worth monitoring among the new students at this ninja school. Even if this child is only 6 years old now, the entire Kiba must be extremely vigilant and careful of him, as this child may erupt into a crisis of destroying Kiba at any time. Naruto Vortex. Jitsuan Tuanzang slowly saw the name he was most concerned about, and his eyes were a bit gloomy. Jiuwei Renjuli. Shouldn't have sent him to school in the first place. Tailed Beast. The most terrifying creature in the world of ninja. There are a total of 9 tailed beasts in the ninja realm. Shain Village, Iwei. Yunin Village, 2 tails, 8 tails. Huoying Village, 3 tails, 6 tails. Yenin Village, 4 tails, 5 tails. My village, Jiuwei. A small village called Longyin Village has 7 tails. According to the number of tails of a tailed beast, the more tails there are, the larger its chakra capacity. People often like to use this to judge the strength of a tailed beast. The tailed beast is naturally endowed with terrifying chakras and powerful abilities. Once Nanamura uses the tailed beast to participate in a war, it can immediately change the situation of the war. However, tailed beasts are naturally irritable and never easily exploited by humans. In order to enhance their national strength by utilizing the tailed beast, the major powers in the ninja world creatively sealed the tailed beast into the human body, creating the tailed beast human pillar power that can be borrowed from the tailed beast chakra. In the ninja war, the tailed beast human pillar force mostly became a human weapon, and other countries often used tailed beasts to determine the outcome of the battlefield. Only Kiba has never used the 9-tailed beast, as it is the most powerful tailed beast in the ninja realm. Kiba dare not use the power of the 9-tailed beast, and even protects the 9-tailed pillar power. Until 6 years ago, a 9-tailed rebellion broke out in my village. Jiuwei suddenly broke free from the seal of Jiuwei Renjulin fled, causing the 4th-generation Hokage of Kiba and a large number of elite ninjas to sacrifice, causing Kiba to suffer heavy losses in this turmoil. Since then, Mai has been caught in internal and external troubles. Fortunately, in order to protect Kiba, the fourth Hokage sealed the 9 tails inside a child named Naruto Vortex before his death, which also prevented Kiba from losing the 9 tails. However, this also led to Kiba completely falling into an awkward situation, holding the strongest tail beast but unable to utilize it, and even having to find ways to prevent problems with the 9-tailed human pillar. In order to prevent the recurrence of the 9 Tails rebellion, the third-generation Hokage Monkey Flying Sun Slayer and Qiuyuan Shenle almost wanted to break their heads. In the face of no success, Qiuyuan Shenle proposed to no longer protect the identity of Joe Renjuli to avoid his personality being too fragile. Instead, he used the experience of other ninja villages to cultivate Renjuli, perhaps giving Kiba a chance to utilize Joe Renjuli. Let Naruto Vortex, a child who has been enduring a tragic childhood since childhood, just like the tail beasts of other villages, let this child know that he is a monster in the eyes of others. As long as this child is forced to get used to a miserable life from a young age, they can always remain calm no matter what happens in the future, and can also prevent the tail beast in their body from losing control. However, this is also somewhat dangerous. In order to avoid emotional breakdown during the growth process of this child named Naruto Vortex, which may lead to problems with the 9 tails in his body, the third Hokage Monkey Flying Sun often appears at critical moments, comforting and encouraging the child to bravely face the tragic life. If a person is given warmth when they are in darkness, this warmth will be like a flame, encouraging them to hold a torch and face the darkness. On the other hand, and it's also the most important, the third-generation Hokage is designed to reinforce the human pillar seal on the child of Naruto Vortex in the first possible moment when 9 tails may lose control, in order to prevent 9 tails from spiraling out of control. In theory, this is not very fair for a child. However, I have witnessed how cruel war can be for the 3 generations of Hokage, and I do not think it is unfair. I even believe that Naruto Vortex is already a very lucky child. Timeline. I summarized the events based on my own anime and manga, just like the timeline of the behind-the-scenes book. I remember the beginning of the plot was 60 years ago, in the year of Kiba. In this book, Qiuyuan Shenle and Uchiha are the same age, 4 years older than Swirl Naruto and Uchiha. End of this chapter. 10. Starting from today, you will be my personal escort. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Starting from today, you will be my personal escort. The rules of the ninja world are so cruel. Even a child is a tool for ninjas. During the ninja war, it was not uncommon for various ninja villages to send 6-year-old children directly to the battlefield in order to win the war. The only one who feels a bit heartless, perhaps Naruto Vortex's parents, are heroes. Naruto's father is the 4th-generation Hokage of Konoha, and his mother is Konoha's previous 9-tailed character, Kushina Naruto. In the 9 Tails Rebellion, this couple sacrificed themselves to protect Kiba. Their couple may think that the village will take care of their orphans. After all, the Feng Shui Gate is a 4th-generation Hokage and has always had a close relationship with the 3rd-generation Hokage. Moreover, in recent years, there have been many comrades in arms in the village. Their couple may think that Kiba will protect the 9-tailed pillar force well. After all, Vortex 9 Shenle is also the previous 9-tailed pillar force. Kiba village has always protected Vortex 9 Shenle well, and Vortex 9 Shenle has hardly encountered any discrimination or exclusion. Anyway, they have all died. There is only one child named Naruto Vortex, standing alone in front of this world, facing the danger that may come at any time. 9-tailed pillar force. The most ferocious tail beast in the world. It's also the strongest war weapon in the world. Qiuyuan Shenle put down the list of new students in his hand and whispered to himself in a cold voice, if Mu Dun can suppress Joe, then we can implement a real Joe pillar power cultivation plan, making Joe pillar power the sharpest weapon in Muye. The ideal of Qiuyuan Shenle is very simple. Firstly, become a fire shadow and reach the pinnacle of life. Secondly, Kiba unifies the ninja realm and reaches the pinnacle of the ninja realm. It's a great pity. Both ideals have not been realized, and even due to the increasing age of Qiuyuan Tuanzang, these two ideals are almost turning into dreams. However, a great ideal always has to take the first step. Qiuyuan Tuanzang can't help but feel a little hot when he thinks of the Qiuyuan Shenle he brought back from the big snake pill. As long as this child's would-done talent is strong enough, let him find an opportunity to kill Ape Flying Sun / and assist him in sitting on the position of Fire Shadow, utilize this child's wooden escape again, sharpen the nine-tailed pillar's strength into a weapon of war, and use the power of the nine-tailed to launch a great war in the ninja realm, unifying the ninja realm. Now we need to take the first step towards our ideals again. The first step is to test Qiuyuan Shenle's talent of Mu Dun. Dong dong dong, a knocking sound came from outside the door. Come on in. Qiuyuan Tuanzang spoke up and called for someone to come in. Yes, Lord Tuanzang. Yun Vlongma and Qiuyuan Shenle came in. Qiuyuan Tuanzang looked up, only to see a bandage wrapped around the shoulders of the oil maiden dragon horse. Subconsciously, he frowned and said, "Dragon horse, are you injured?" "This is." The oily female dragon horse hesitated and couldn't speak. "I injured it." Qiuyuan Shenle interrupted the Yun Vlongma's words and said, "The room that the elder arranged for me is not comfortable. He loosened my bones and I let him bleed." The oily female dragon horse couldn't help but glance sideways. Qiuyuan Tuanzang's expression was somewhat displeased. "Jia. Don't indulge in temporary pleasures." After giving a deep reprimand, Qiuyuan Tuanzang suddenly thought of something and spoke up, "You two had a private conflict. Who won?" "The senior helped me change to a comfortable room." After Qiuyuan Shenle finished speaking, he continued carelessly. "It's just a little hurt, but it won't kill. I want to come to see Master Tuanshan quickly, and I have to go and bandage it first." The corner of the eye of the oily female dragon horse jumped. Is this little ghost talking in human language? Although it is important to come and see Lord Tuanzang quickly, there is no particularly important task today. Besides, when they arrived, they also found bandages to bandage their wounds on the way. There is nothing wrong with it, right? Qiuyuan Tuanzang feels a bit off. Theoretically, there is nothing wrong with the Yun Vlongma, but Qiuyuan Shenle also has a good point in saying that he would not come to see himself in advance to bandage the wound. Root everything should prioritize one's own will. Members of the root, I have always spared my life for tasks. The oil female dragon horse has always been her own guardian, and the tasks she carries out have become increasingly easy. Surprisingly, she has fallen to the point where she can't even tolerate a small injury. Not right. The point is not this. The key is that this little guy won against the oily female dragon horse. Even though the reputation of the oil female dragon horse may not be obvious and she is only good at infiltrating and stealing intelligence, she is also a seasoned warrior named Konoha Yunori who would have lost to a little guy. A ripple rose in Qiuyuan Tuanzang's heart, his gaze fixed on the boy in front of him. When he stood up and wanted to say something, he suddenly stopped. "Longma, you go to the land of water. Perhaps you stayed too comfortable by my side. So much so that you have forgotten that ninjas are not afraid of sacrifice." Qiuyuan Tuanzang turned his head to look at Yunu Longma and ordered in a low voice, "I remember you were the most skilled at infiltrating and spying at the root. Go investigate the intelligence of the underwater country and find out what conspiracy is hidden in Huoying village." "Yes, Lord Tuanzang." After accepting the task, the oil girl Longma looked up and wanted to explain to Qiuyuan Tuanzang that she was not that kind of person at all. Master Tuanzang." Qiuyuan Shenle interrupted the Yunu Longma's words and said, "Why don't you give me this task? I haven't done one thing for Tuanzao." "No need." Qiuyuan Tuanzang shook his head and continued, "This task is too dangerous. It's too early for you. The Mu Dun blood on your body is more important than anyone else. Since you can defeat Longma, it proves that your strength has surpassed him. During this period, you can follow me as my personal companion, and I will also teach you the inheritance of your root will well. As Qiuyuan Tuanzang spoke, he slowly supported the table and stood up, saying, "Follow me to the practice field, I'll teach you a new Mukun ninjutsu." Yes. Qiuyuan Shenle hurriedly followed him. Oil Maiden Longma stood at the door, looking at the back of the elderly and the young as they left, with a hint of confusion in her eyes. In between, has anything changed? Forget it. Oil Female Dragon Horse no longer thinks too much. As long as he returns from his mission in the Water Kingdom, time will prove everything, and Lord Tuanzang will see that he is never the kind of ninja who is greedy for life and afraid of death. Above the covered bridge. The young man followed the old man calmly and attentively. Even if the ninjas at the root always follow the will of Shimura Tanzo, they are not the same person and will go astray due to differences in their words. It was destined to be like this from the beginning. Because Qiuyuan Tuanzang never completely trusts the members of the root, otherwise he would not have planted a tongue root disaster seal on the tongues of the root members to prevent them from leaking information. New book for collection. End of this chapter.